April 5th, 2025, London Thomas shows up to the home of her 23-year-old ex-boyfriend, Jalen Pendergrass, the home he shared with his mother, 49-year-old Charla Pendergrass. She never returned home. 3 weeks later, authorities find her sealed in a plastic bin, 15 miles away from the place she was last seen alive. What happened to her? What do the Pendergrasses have to do with her death? This is what we know so far. Before we get too far into it, please understand that all of this is alleged. This case is still in court. We don't have an outcome yet, so keep that in mind. First, hello, I'm Dee, and this is Creepycassettiyt, your place for horror in reality and beyond. On this channel, we cover dark history, weird mysteries, true crime, and strange tales. So if any of those topics are of interest to you, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss our chats. But let's get back into it. So to set the scene, let's talk about Inkster, Michigan. Inkster is a suburban city about 14 miles from Detroit. It's considered a bedroom town, meaning most of the people sleep there and work somewhere else. It has a population of about 28,000 people, and there's not much to do there. It's got that small town feel. You wouldn't go sightseeing in Inkster, let's put it that way. The place is no stranger to crime. I mean, we already talked about there only being about 28,000 people living there, so less than 30,000 people, and yet in 2024 there were 467 property crimes and 267 violent crimes, which is a fair amount for a city of that size. So now that we've kind of painted a picture of the area that this case takes place, let's go ahead and talk about London. So London Thomas was described as an outspoken girl with a soft heart. She was about 5'6" and 115 pounds, so she's tiny. She was deeply connected to her family, staying in daily contact with her sisters. I mean, a day did not go by that she didn't talk to her sisters. She also stayed in frequent contact with her biological father and her grandmother. And she deeply loved her family and her friends. She had a butterfly tattoo on her neck, and she had a love for music. She also had a love for hair and hairstyling. She overall just sounds like a lovely person. I wish I had more details to get into about London, but I'm confined to what I can find in news sources. And she came from a very loving, tight-knit family. When she went missing, it was catastrophic for her family. They were so upset, and all they wanted was London back home and in one piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and give you a rough timeline, but again, this is alleged and we don't have all the details yet. London was at home with her mother on April 4th, so the day before the incident occurred, and she was at home until about midnight. Around midnight, her older sister came to get her to go get her hair done. So when she left the house that early morning, she was wearing a dark colored hoodie, pink Crocs, and black leggings. She remained at her sister's house for a few hours, and then around 4 a.m., she requested that her sister drop her off at Jalen Pendergrass' home in Inkster. Now, Jalen was London's boyfriend, but at the time that this incident occurred, they were not together. So it's not clear why she went to his house. It's not clear if he invited her, and it's not clear if they were intending to reconcile. Either way, she showed up at his house. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. And to me, I'm not sure why Charla is allowing the 17-year-old in her home, let alone being okay with her 23-year-old son dating this 17-year-old girl. Now, before you ask, because I'm sure some of you are questioning the age of consent in Michigan, it is 16. Now, that being said, just because something is legal doesn't always mean it's right. And there's a whole lot of life to live between 17 and 23. So the age gap to me is concerning, and I have to side-eye the situation. So from there, we don't have really any details. We know that London never contacted her sister to get picked up or anything. When London didn't call her for that entire day, and then the sister realized that she'd never gone home or found a ride or anything, so she contacted the Inkster Police Department on April 5th, the day that London went missing. And Inkster PD from there started their investigation. Now, when no one in the family heard from London the whole rest of April 5th and into April the 6th, which is, again, not like her. She keeps in regular contact with her family. Her mother reported her missing to the Detroit Police Department because Detroit is where she and her husband live. So from there, Detroit Police Department, Inkster Police Department, the Michigan State Police, and the FBI all started to work together to investigate where London could be. On April 6th, the family managed to ping her phone to an area of Westland, Michigan, around Ann Arbor Trail and Cooper Upper Elementary School. Now, though they pinged the phone, it's not clear if anyone was actually able to recover the device. But it begs the question, did London have her phone at the time that she disappeared? Like, how did it end up in this area that's about 4 miles away from the Pendergrass residence? So how did it get there? So from there, on April 12th, the family organizes a community search for London, and they meet up at the Cooper Upper Elementary School. And it doesn't appear that they were able to recover any evidence that would help the police locate London. You know, the police departments, the FBI, they were continuing their own extensive investigation. The family forms another community search on April the 17th, which again really doesn't turn up too much in evidence. But on that same day, police actually raided the Pendergrass home. At that time, they told the family they hadn't really turned up any clues. This is what Jasmine Bennett said of the situation. They raided the house, his house, and nothing was found. That was really truly the last piece of real information I received. She also said she was very connected to her sisters. They didn't go a day without talking to each other, no matter where they were or what they did. So all of this is strange. We haven't talked to her. We haven't seen her. We know nothing. Unless you've gone through something like this, we can't even imagine the pain that this family was feeling. You go from literally speaking to someone every single day to just silence. It just had to be pure pain. But April 26th rolls around and Michigan State Police receive a tip from a friend of Charla. And he told them that back on April 7th, Charla reached out and requested his assistance in moving a sealed plastic tub from her house. So April 11th, that friend comes through and he hoists the sealed bin, didn't know what was in it, into this white SUV. He then drives that SUV 15 miles up the road to a town called Southfield, Michigan. And he parks this car in someone's driveway. And that's where it sat for 2 weeks before the police received the tip. Well, the police showed up at that residence and of course they find the plastic bin and they find London's remains. My question is, what is the connection between the people who live in that house and the friend who dropped the SUV? Because my question would be, I mean, you're not gonna let some random person park their vehicle in your driveway for a few weeks. Like, somebody would be asking questions. The vehicle would have been towed. Clearly there has to be some kind of relationship between the friend who dropped off the SUV and the person who lives in that house. But what we know is that when news correspondents went up to the house to get a statement from the woman who lives there with her 3 children, she didn't have anything to say. And then my other question for the friend is, you didn't want to know what you were moving? I mean, that bin had to be heavy. I know London was a tiny girl, but even 100 pounds would be heavy to most people. So you weren't wondering what was in the bin. And then it's sealed, right? But it can't be sealed enough to keep the sickening smell of decay from seeping out. And then of course, if you're living in that house and you're walking past that car every day, you can smell that. You don't have any questions about what the hell's in there. It's just odd because I know that plastic bin is not masking that scent. Other question is, who did the vehicle belong to? Was it Charla's vehicle? Did she have the friend drive her vehicle over to that house with the bin in it? I mean, did it belong to the friend and they just left it there? Like, I mean, I have questions. So London's remains are taken to the medical examiner in Oakland County, and they determined that her cause of death was asphyxia, and they ruled her death a homicide. So of course, that's hit, and the location leads them right on back to the Pendergrass household. Jalen and Charla were both arrested and brought in for questioning that day. And then from that point on, I'm guessing at some point they kind of bonded out. I don't have a ton of information on what happened in between. They kind of bonded out. There was some questioning going on. May 2nd, Charla was charged with lying to a peace officer during a violent crime investigation. Those charges were dropped in the 22nd District Court in Inkster and refiled in the 34th District Court in Van Buren Township, where the false statements were given. A bench warrant was also issued on October 15th for the mother and son. Later that same day, Wayne County Prosecutor Kim Worthy in her office files a formal complaint against the two. And she had this to say: "This is a case where I believe the evidence will be abundant that both defendants, but particularly Miss Charla Pendergrass, engaged in an extended campaign to lie to the police, lie to law enforcement, and to cover up her actions." Jalen Pendergrass and Charla Pendergrass are both facing charges of second-degree murder murder and tampering with evidence. On April 17th, there was an arraignment hearing held for Jalen and Charlotte in Wayne County. With that arrangement, we have this statement from Cedric Salisbury, who is London's biological father, and he said,
"I'm so angry and I'm so happy and satisfied at the same time. You know, we all knew that they were pretty much responsible for what happened. So now we're moving forward. We're moving in the right direction. We're going for justice for London."
And I'm sure they must have breathed such a sigh of relief while also just being so grief-stricken and heartbroken about the whole situation. At the hearing, the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office accused Charlotte of showing a willingness to be deceptive. Charlotte was given a cash bond of $5 million and she'll be tracked by GPS tether, but she can bond out. She can't have any weapons and she cannot drink any alcohol. During that time, she also can't leave the state of Michigan. Jalen, on the other hand, has been held without bond due to additional charges pending against him for an unrelated case out of Oakland County and the severity of the charges for London's case. That other case that we're referring to is related to a false report of felony, and for that in itself is a felony. And so he would be looking at 4 years in prison and a $2,000 fine, but I think that's the least of his worries because I'm sure it's going to be way worse than anything he could have gotten off that one situation once they officially convict him of these charges, which again, this is alleged, but your house was the last house she was seen, and then your mom calls to have somebody move a box that it contains her. Yeah, the evidence is quite clear to me. He's gonna be in there for a long time. And Jalen's defense attorney did say that the case against him was weak for the false allegation situation and are likely to be dismissed. Jalen and Charlotte were scheduled for a probable cause conference on October 22nd. I did look, I couldn't get any additional information about what occurred during that particular meeting, but if anything else comes up and y'all want to hear more, do let me know. So in the end, after the police discovered London's remains, her family held a vigil outside the home where she was found, and on May 10th, which would have been her 18th birthday, her 18th freaking birthday, they buried her. And I'll just go ahead and let her mom say what she needs to say about the situation here.
To her, it's just a waking nightmare to have your child that you carried for 10 full months to be ripped away from you.
My heart goes out to London's family and friends, her loved ones in general. And I mean, I can't imagine the pain, and I just hope that you all can find peace in this really heartbreaking situation. I'm really just so sorry that you're all having to go through this, and you shouldn't have to. It doesn't make any sense. But that's all I have for you today. Do let me know if you want an update on this case later on down the line. Please, if you don't mind, send some love to London's family. You can do so in the comments. There's also a GoFundMe, and I'll go ahead and include it here. Maybe close by the time I get this video dropped, as she has already been buried, but I'll go ahead and include it. And in the meantime, much love, and I'll see you all soon for another video. Bye.